Some philosophers add a neat little brick to the wall of knowledge. Others, well, they show up with a sledgehammer and bring the whole thing crashing down. Today, we're talking about a guy from that second group, David Hume, a philosopher who didn't just change the answers, he completely rewired the questions we're allowed to ask about the universe and our place in it.
To really get how big of a deal Hume was, you have to picture the world he was born into. For, literally centuries, we're talking from the ancient Greeks all the way up to the scientific revolution, almost every great thinker shared this one single fundamental belief: that the universe made sense, and our brains were built to figure it out.
They called it the ideal of intelligibility. And it's a pretty appealing idea, right? The thought that the universe isn't just a bunch of random chaos, but that it has some kind of underlying logic, a blueprint, that our minds could actually trace and understand completely. Now, this quote from a French play is just a perfect, hilarious takedown of the kind of explanation that science was trying to get away from. Why does opium make you sleepy? Because it has a sleepy quality. It's a complete circle. It explains absolutely nothing. It just slaps a fancy label on the thing we already knew. The new wave of thinkers wanted real answers, not just fancy words. And this search for real answers led to two massive models of how the universe works. You had the old Aristotelian view, where everything had a purpose. A rock falls because its purpose, its goal, is to get to the center of the universe. Then you had the newer Cartesian view, where the universe was all mechanics, like a giant clock. But here's the key. Even though they were totally different, they shared the exact same goal: to build a model of the universe that a human mind could wrap its head around completely. But the first real cracks in this whole idea of a knowable universe, they came from the most unlikely person imaginable, the greatest scientist of them all, Isaac Newton. His work was this incredible triumph, but, whoops, it also accidentally created a massive philosophical crisis. You can't overstate how amazing Newton's laws were. All of a sudden, with just a few equations, you could predict the arc of a cannonball and the orbit of a planet. It seemed like the ultimate proof that the universe ran on these beautiful, precise, knowable laws. But there was a huge problem hiding in plain sight. Newton's math could tell you how gravity worked with unbelievable precision. He could calculate its effects perfectly. But what he couldn't do was tell you what gravity was. How in the world does the sun reach out and grab the Earth across millions of miles of empty space? With what exactly? This idea, this action at a distance, it felt like a giant step backward. It felt like magic. People literally called it occult, like a hidden, mystical power. It went against everything the clockwork universe was supposed to be about. Instead of clear cause and effect, it felt like a ghost in the machine. And this question just terrified philosophers. Seriously, if Newton's theory, the single greatest scientific achievement in history, had a core of pure mystery, then what chance did we have of understanding anything? Was the whole project a bust? Was the universe not as logical as we'd all hoped? And this is where David Hume walks onto the scene, and what he does is just brilliant. Instead of trying to solve the puzzle of gravity, he looks at the puzzle and says, wait a minute. Maybe the puzzle itself is the problem. Maybe we've been asking the wrong question from the very beginning. So Hume starts by splitting all our knowledge into two big buckets. In one bucket, you have relations of ideas. That's stuff like math and logic. We know 2 + 2 = 4 just by thinking about it. But then there's the other bucket, the one that contains basically everything else about the real world. He calls this matters of fact. And he says there is only one way to learn about them: experience. Just think about it for a second. If you had never, ever seen fire, could you figure out, just by pure logic, that it would be hot and burn you? No way. If you'd never seen billiards, could you reason your way to knowing that one ball hitting another will make it move? Of course not. We only know these things because we've seen them happen. We learned them from experience. And this was the sledgehammer. Hume basically declared that the special, intelligible connection that everyone was looking for between cause and effect was a ghost. It wasn't there. He says, look, we see one billiard ball roll, then we see it hit another, and then we see the second one roll. We see it happen over and over and over. But what we never see is the force or the power or the causation itself. All we ever see is one event following another. Okay, so if our belief in cause and effect isn't coming from some deep logical insight,
then where in the world is it coming from? And this is what leads to Hume's most shocking conclusion of all.
Yeah, this is the question Hume really forces us to face. If it's not logic, what is it? What makes us so sure the sun will rise tomorrow? What makes us confident that a piece of bread will nourish us and not poison us? His answer was simple, powerful, and for the people of his time, deeply unsettling. He said it comes from custom, habit, instinct. Our expectation that the future will be like the past isn't some fancy product of our godlike reason. It's an animal instinct, pure and simple, something we have because it helps us survive. A dog expects a treat when it hears a certain sound for the exact same fundamental reason a scientist expects an apple to fall down and not up. And in that, Hume argued, we are way more like the animals than we are like angels.
So what's the legacy of all this? Did Hume just destroy knowledge? Not at all. In a weird way, his skepticism actually saved science by putting it on a much firmer, more honest foundation. It literally paved the way for the science we have today.
I mean, you can draw a perfectly straight line from Hume's philosophy to the future. His whole thing about don't just sit and think, go out and test it, that is the scientific method. His scandalous idea that human reason is just a well-developed animal instinct, Charles Darwin comes along a century later and proves him right. And the totally bizarre, non-intuitive worlds of Einstein's relativity and quantum mechanics, they are the ultimate proof that the universe couldn't care less about making sense to us. So this right here, this is the great human shift. We went from trying to get this God's eye view to fully understand the why behind reality, to a much more humble but also much more powerful goal, to carefully describe the what and the how. The job of science became mapping the patterns we can observe, not claiming to comprehend the hidden nature of things. And that's what gives modern science its power. By freeing it from this impossible demand to be intelligible or to make intuitive sense, Hume allowed science to just follow the evidence wherever it leads, no matter how strange or how completely bizarre the destination turns out to be. And that really leaves us with a provocative thought, doesn't it? Hume's revolution is still happening. Think about something like quantum entanglement, what Einstein called spooky action at a distance. It makes no sense. It's completely unintelligible. And yet, every experiment confirms that it's real. Hume would have just looked at all of it, maybe with a little smile, and said, "See? What did I tell you?" When did you ever get the idea that reality had to be simple enough for you to understand?